Hello again, and welcome to webinar 4 of Bounceability, a 5-module resilience journey. And today we're talking about how emotional intelligence can boost your resilience. Emotional intelligence is not just about understanding your emotions, but also being aware of your emotions and knowing what you're feeling at any given time so that you can respond in an appropriate way rather than allowing your emotions to control you. And I'd like to start with this Buddhist quote, and it says, "You will not be punished for your anger, you'll be punished by your anger." And what that means is that it's okay to feel an emotion like anger, but it's if you continue to feel that anger and you continue to allow it to control you, that's when it becomes a problem. And unfortunately, Western culture says that psychological problems are defined by unpleasant feelings or thoughts or memories or bodily sensations, and that's really not true. It's okay to have unpleasant feelings and thoughts and memories and bodily sensations. It's really what you do about those feelings that's important, and that's what emotional intelligence is about. It's a bit sad, really, that in our society today that we see undesirable experiences as signals that something is wrong and that has to change, and that we cannot have a healthy life until we eliminate all the negative experiences around us. And I see that as us having a tug of war with those emotions, like the people in this picture. If we're anxious or feeling a negative emotion, we do a tug of war with it and we pull on it and pull on it so that we can get rid of it. And really, there's another way to look at it where we can just drop that rope and just see it as something that is there and part of your experience, and not try and fight it, but accept what is and being curious and observing that emotion or that experience and asking you things like, what are these feelings about? Why do I feel this way? What beliefs have I got that are making me uncomfortable? And that's altogether different than having a tug of war with that anxiety to try and make it go away. Um, uh, it's really about asking those questions so that you can move in a new direction with those emotions. We have choice points in everything that we go through a day. So we feel what we feel and we can choose our response to that feeling. So a negative emotion or a negative feeling is not something that we have to get rid of, but it's something that we can choose to respond to in different ways. So if you look at this diagram, each dot on that line, let's say that black line is your journey, each dot is a choice point. And as you can see, there are many different directions one choice point can take you in terms of how you respond to that situation or that feeling. And your life is not linear. It's not one straight line moving forward and that's what happens to you. You have many different choices in a day to decide how you respond to different situations. So you can focus on changing your state of mind and you can focus on coping with the situation and you can focus on problem solving. So you can focus on changing your situation and your problem solving. You can't change that thing that happened to you at that moment, but you can choose your response to it. And when you recognize that, your resilience goes up because you don't feel like you're trapped by what's happening to you. You have more control over the situation by the way you choose to respond to it. And this is the tool I'm going to teach you today. It's called the 4 quadrants of emotion. And it's important for us to be aware of our emotions at any given time. And I bet if I were to ask you to label different emotions, people would come up with the usual ones, such as happy, sad, angry, excited. But we have so many different emotions, and we can label our emotions many different things at any given time. And why is this helpful to be aware of your emotions at any given time? Because when we can choose our response to them rather than being the slave to them. And the 4 quadrants of emotion looks like this. It's, as you can see, there's lots of different emotion labels there. There's not just the usual ones. And you can see that, let's say in the safe quadrant, you'll see on the top right-hand side, there's a green quadrant called safe. And there's lots of different emotions in there. Delighted, happy, excited, astonished, aroused. Astonished and aroused start to move up into activation. So things that make you feel alive. Um, but the activation also covers feeling threatened. So alarmed, tense, angry. You feel activated and alert, but they're not in the safe side, they're in the threatened side. And if you move down into the bottom left quadrant, you'll see that there's dissatisfied feelings like miserable, sad, gloomy, depressed. And then as you go further down, there's quiet, dissatisfied emotions that aren't activated. So things like droopy, tired. And if you go unsatisfied, the still emotions are sleepy, relaxed, calm. But as you move up towards activation, you start to feel pleased, glad, and so forth. So you'll see on those 4 quadrants, there are lots of different emotions. You can feel activated, you can feel energized, you can feel still, but even in the energized or still moments, you can feel safe, satisfied, dissatisfied, or threatened. And you can see emotions are quite complex. They're not as simple as I'm angry or I'm sad. There are lots of different feelings and lots of different ways that we show our emotions. And understanding and labeling your emotions accurately will help you accurately to respond to them. So emotional reactions are very common, and the most common triggers at work that cause emotional triggers at work, and see if you feel any of these at work, is disrespect and condescension. So, people being condescending, unfair treatment, lack of appreciation, not feeling listened to, unrealistic deadlines or demands. And each of us is programmed by our prior experiences at work to emotionally overreact to those triggers we face at work. So if we experience unfairness or unrealistic demands, and we've experienced those before, we become programmed to overreact to those triggers. And there are many ways beyond our instinctual reactions that we can learn to respond. And a technique is consistent labeling of the experience to put it into a more meaningful context. So if you label that emotion appropriately, you put it into a more meaningful context. So rather than saying, I'm angry today, you might say, I'm feeling annoyed or distressed or alarmed or tense. And you can see by labeling it those different things, you might choose a different response rather than just, I'm angry. So if I were to ask you, how are you feeling today or right this moment, which corner are you in? Which of those 4 quadrants are you in? And what other emotions can you put in this quadrant that you might feel that aren't labeled there? And I challenge you to do that at home or at work. These 4 quadrants at your desk or in your pocket on a laminated sheet, and start labeling your emotions and see how that will help you choose a different way to respond and respond in a more resilient way. This brings me to 3 different states that we can be in emotionally. And mostly we're all steady, we're feeling steady, we're feeling emotionally fine. I'm feeling steady right now. I'm not feeling upset or anxious or nervous or super excited about anything. I'm feeling steady and calm. And then sometimes a trigger happens, like those triggers I mentioned in the previous slide, that puts us on edge. And when we're on edge, we start to lose our balance a little bit. And then if we continue to allow that emotion to control us, we have a big wobble. And that's where we have a little bit of a breakdown, or we start to feel like we can't handle the situation anymore. So being on edge is okay. It's how do we get ourselves back to feeling steady again? And that's where we talk about our self-steadying strategies. So what we want is when we're on edge, We know what our strategies are to get us feeling steady again. Or when we're in a wobble, how do we move ourselves from having a wobble where we're already, feeling very upset and we're breaking down, to being a little bit less so and being only on edge, to steady again. And self-steadying strategies are those strategies we've talked about in previous webinars that help us feel calm. So at work, it might be taking a 10-minute walk at lunchtime around the block for some fresh air. It may be grabbing a coffee with a colleague that you really enjoy chatting to and socializing with them. It might be understanding, or, taking a, 5-minute meditation break. So it's important that you have a self-setting schedule at work to help you stay away from those on-edge moments and cleanse our emotions to get us feeling back to that steady. So we'll feel lots of different emotions at work in one day. And if we have a self-setting schedule, things that revitalize us and help us feel resilient again, and we keep doing those throughout a day, and that's part of our routine, then that will help us stay steady throughout the day. Remember this from previous webinars. Upward arrows have a buffering effect. So things that increase our resilience buffer us from the things that will bring us down. Okay, so you go back to that webinar 1, webinar 2, webinar 3, and review the things that you said were upward arrows, things that lifted your resilience, and make sure you include those in your day, because they have a buffering effect. So if something bad happens, one of those triggers happens, condescension, overloaded, not respected, all of those triggers that happen at work that most trigger people into an emotional response, you will buffer yourself against those triggers. Many of you would have heard about mindfulness, and mindfulness teaches us a few things. It stops our brains from worrying about the past and the future. It allows us to practice thinking without judgment. It gives us awareness of the present moment. It allows relaxation and positivity. It allows us to drop that rope, so stop playing tug of war with our emotions. And it can be done at any time, at your desk, while eating lunch, while running. And there's a simple technique that you can use, and it's called the 5 senses check-in. And what mindfulness is, it's not, meditating and switching off your brain. It's bringing your mind back to the present moment and being aware of what's happening around you and inside you, um, what you can hear, see, taste, smell, in that moment, so that you stop your mind from ruminating and churning on negative emotions and thoughts about the past and the future. And I mentioned that 5 senses check-in. I'm going to talk you through what that is in a moment, but what it does is it helps you be more steady. And this is how you do a 5 sense check-in. You find somewhere quiet, and away from people where you won't be interrupted. And what you do is, and it might be outside on a bench, in the garden, at your workplace, it could be at your desk even. You don't have to find somewhere special, but it can just be somewhere where you can observe around you quietly without being interrupted. And what you'll start with is, what am I seeing around me? And what am I hearing right now? And then you'll ask if you can smell anything, and if so, what? And then if you can taste anything, and if so, what? And what do I feel inside my body? So you go through all 5 of your senses. What am I seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and what am I feeling inside me? And if you just take 10 minutes to go through this process, you will find it's actually a very calming exercise, because you move away from those churning thoughts of anger, frustration, anxiety, stress, tension, and you start to bring yourself into the present moment, and allows you to observe what is going on inside you rather than respond in a way that is out of your control. Mindfulness allows us to have a different vantage point, so look at things differently. For example, if you look at this chair, the chair on the left is looking at it from one angle, and the chair on the right, it's the same chair, but we're looking at it from a different angle. And You can certainly, if we talk about your feelings and emotions, you can look from your thoughts, feelings, and emotions and react in the moment. So, looking from your feelings means that you are allowing that feeling to just be and allowing it to control you, and you react in the moment to that feeling. But if you look at your thoughts and feelings and take a pause and observe and notice, you might see that emotion or feeling or thought in a different way. And so when you look at from your thoughts, you let them control you. But if you look at your thoughts when you're going through mindfulness, you take a pause, you observe and you notice, and you ask questions like, why am I feeling these things? What what past experiences have made me respond in this way? And you start to take control of what your emotions are. And more importantly, you start to take control of what your response is rather than, let's say you're frustrated and you snap at somebody and you get very frustrated at somebody and you're very short with them. If you practice mindfulness and you start observing your feelings and you're able to label your feelings appropriately, you're able to take a pause and respond in a kinder way rather than allowing that frustration and that anger to control you and run away with you. So let's take a moment now to do a 5 sense check-in. I want you to sit quietly at your desk and, wherever you are watching this webinar. You might be in your office, you might be at home, you might be on your couch, on your laptop, doesn't matter where you are. And I want you to close your eyes and I want you to think about, what can you hear around you right now in this moment? And you don't need to judge what it is, you just label it. What can you hear around you right now? And now I want you to open your eyes and I want you to look around. What can you see around you right now? What are the things around you? What can you see? Label them. And now I want you to take a moment. Can you smell anything? Is there any smell in the air? What is it? Is somebody cooking? And now I want you to think about what you can taste in your mouth. Can you taste anything? And if you can taste something, what is it? And lastly, thinking about those 4 quadrants of emotion. Look inside your body. What can you feel? What are you feeling right now? So that's a 5 sense check-in. And you can take longer to do that at work. And you can do that multiple times in a day to help you move from a wobble or a on edge feeling back to a steady feeling, because you're able to look at your thoughts and feelings, take a pause and observe and notice them without judging them, without going, I need to stop feeling this. It's just a moment to go, what is this? What am I feeling? What's brought me here today? This is also where you can think about, how do you talk to a friend if a friend of yours is upset? Or if your friend of yours is sad, or if your friend of yours is angry? What do you say to them? And now I want you to think about, what do you say to yourself when you're sad or angry or upset? What are the words you use on yourself? And really, self-compassion is talking to yourself as you would a friend. If you've noticed that you talk to your friend in a kinder way than you talk to yourself, perhaps you need to start talking to yourself as you would a friend. And why wouldn't you? We spend a lot more time with ourselves than we do with any other person on this planet. We are with ourselves all day. And I find it quite amazing how we speak to ourselves in such an unkind manner when we would never talk like that to a friend or a family member. And you should really start talking to yourself as you would a friend or a family member, and have more compassion. So if you're angry or sad or upset, instead of telling yourself that you're stupid or don't do that or don't be silly, give yourself the advice that you would give a friend or a trusted family member. Give yourself that advice and that time and listen to yourself. When a friend tells you how they're feeling, you listen. But it's funny, when we tell ourselves how we're feeling, we tell ourselves to not feel that way and we need to just be quiet and get on with our day because we're at work now. So it's about having self-compassion and talking to yourself as you would a friend. I call that turning off the rubbish channel. We have this radio in our head that says things, you're an idiot. Why are you so stupid? You never get things right. Stop being upset. Stop making all these mistakes. And we create these horrible feelings and emotions. And remember, drop that rope. Be curious and observe your emotions and feelings and ask yourself those questions. What are these feelings about? Why do I feel this way? What beliefs have I got that are making me uncomfortable? Switch off that rubbish channel and start putting on a channel that is more helpful inside your head. Each feeling we have is the beginning of a story that wants to go somewhere. So, when we have these emotions, it's a story that is coming up that wants to go somewhere, and it's our choice as to where that story goes. It's not predetermined. Our feelings do not predetermine what our story is. Our choices do. And what do we hope for? We need to have active hope around what's happening around us when things happen and things that trigger us or make us feel upset or stressful events happen. So to process feelings, if you want to move through a story and create a story that is more hopeful, this is how we process those feelings. First, we notice them, so we can do something like a five senses check-in. Then we unpack them. We ask those questions that are asked on the previous slide. Why am I feeling this way? What brought me here? What thoughts do I have on this? And then respond. Choose how you're going to respond. If you're feeling angry, you can then choose what the appropriate response to that anger is in a calm and mindful way. And while you're unpacking, it's about turning off that rubbish channel and speaking to yourself in a kind manner as you would a friend. So if you were to help a friend unpack their emotions and their feelings, how would that sound? What kind of questions would you ask? How would you respond to that? And then you can do the same for yourself, and that would allow you to respond and move through your story in a more hopeful and positive way. So having active hope rather than now I'm angry and my day is ruined and I'm upset and now I'm going to be cross at everyone and I'm going to snap at them and I'm going to be very frustrated at everybody all day. You can change that. It's your choice. Remember those choice points. You have those choice points throughout the day to choose how you respond to frustration or anger or irritation, tension. So emotional intelligence can be as simple as that, as starting to identify your emotions and choosing how you respond to them. There are other elements of emotional intelligence that we could talk about, but we could be here all day. And I think the most important uh, thing that you can do to start being more resilient and using your emotional intelligence to help you be more resilient is to start identifying your emotions accurately and then choosing how you're going to respond to that, and also keeping yourself in a resilience zone, that steady zone, keeping yourself out of that on edge feeling or that wobble feeling, and doing self-steadying practices throughout the day that helps you steady yourself. And that's your practice at work for the week. So anytime you enter a challenging situation or you feel yourself being on edge, ask yourself these four questions. What am I feeling or experiencing? Use your four quadrants, have it in your pocket or at your computer, and identify which emotion are you feeling in those four quadrants. And then ask yourself, am I in the resilience zone? Am I on edge or am I already in a wobble? And then ask yourself, how can I steady myself? What's a self-steadying strategy I can use right now? Can I go for a walk? Can I contact a friend? Will a cup of coffee help me? Can I do 5 minute, five senses check-in and do some mindfulness? You choose anything that will help you feel more steady and get you back in your resilience zone. And then, how can I respond with active hope? What do you do from there? What's your story? You can choose what your story is from that moment that you've experienced a challenging situation or emotion. So, if anything, remember these tips. Engage in personal renewal. Do things that revitalize you and renew you and help you feel refreshed. Um, Even take a break from your emails or take a break from your phone. Put your phone away and stop looking at notifications. Uh, have a cup of tea. Go for a walk. Or on weekends, do even bigger activities that we've talked about in previous webinars. What are the things that renew you on a grander scale? Spending time with friends and family, doing hobbies, going on long walks at the beach, anything that renews you is going to help you steady your emotions. And my second tip is that 5 minute mindfulness. If you've never done mindfulness before, look into it. And 5 minutes of mindfulness a day alone can be incredibly helpful if you do it properly. And you can do that at any time at work, and it can be very helpful in helping steady you and get you back on track with your emotions. So that's it for today. Good luck with your practice at work this week. I do hope you've been doing all of the work practices in every webinar. And next time, it's the final webinar in the series, and I look forward to seeing you at that one. Good luck and enjoy.